I still remember taking my ACTs, walking into school early on a Saturday morning, those old school wooden desks, number 2 pencils and Scantrons, wondering if I'd studied enough and how this day would change everything for me. But I knew about the college process, FAFSA, scholarships. I even had my future roommate picked out. I was locked in, ready to go. But what about other potential college students, like those coming from different countries?
I didn't know anything about this place. And I landed here and I'm like, okay, let's do this.
Dahan came to Wisconsin from Israel in 2019. She was an international student athlete. Times were much different for international students back then, but even still, Gal wondered if she had made a mistake.
America from overseas looks like the dream, where everyone wants to be, where everyone wants to go. So when I came here, I was like, this is a dream. And suddenly I realized, like, ouch, is this the dream I wanted?
That dream would cost Gal more than just tuition. The demands of being a student in a foreign country would lead her everywhere from panic attacks to big accomplishments, and eventually, a life of immigration limbo. I'm Jimmy Gutierrez, and this is Status Pending, a podcast from WUWM, Milwaukee's NPR. In this show, we get into how our immigration system works and doesn't, and the impact it has on the people who are going through it. Today, things have changed for international students in the U.S. in ways no amount of binge studying could get you ready for. So, how did this process work? And what's changed? Reporter Audrey Nowakowski takes it from here.
Gal is from Beit Yehoshua, a small village in Israel. And ever since she was little, she loved basketball, a sport she's been playing since she was 6. It's actually what motivated her to go to college abroad.
The United States is the only place where you can combine education and sports in such a high level. So you can be a student and you can be an athlete. And in the United States, you can be a student athlete.
Gal didn't come to the U.S. for college right after she finished high school. In Israel, service in the military is mandatory after high school for those who are capable. Gal served as a combat instructor for 2 years. Then she did some traveling.
What's very common about the Israeli culture, which I love, after we've been so under rules and so strict for a couple of years, we go and travel. So I traveled with my best friend in New Zealand and Australia.
In 2018, Gal started the process to study abroad. She was working with private agents who help international student athletes specifically. They built a profile of her stats, basketball videos, things that American coaches can look at for recruitment.
And then they had a system that pretty much sends like hundreds and hundreds of emails to all over the country, to coaches, to schools. And you go to sleep at night and you pray that someone will reach out.
And a couple did. After her first offer fell through, Gal turned to Cardinal Stritch University in Milwaukee. She called up the basketball coach there to talk about the offer.
And I said, hey, is this still available? Can we do it? Said, let's talk. The next day we talked. The next day I signed, a week after I showed up here.
It took Gal about 1.5 years to take the steps to get an F1 student visa. She took the ACT and a test of English as a foreign language. One of the things you should know about student visas is that you have to prove you can pay tuition. Gal was lucky. She had support from her family and a partial athletic scholarship, so tuition wasn't a problem. But she was less certain about the next part of the process, interviewing with the U.S. Embassy in Israel.
That day is so anxiety-provoking because you're like, I'm going to go to the embassy and they're going to stare at me and ask me all the hard questions. So I had all the documents in one packet. You give it to them and they start to question you. Why are you doing this? Why are you coming to the States? What's your means? You say you're a student. You say you're an athlete. Can you tell us what you're playing? Things like that. That they want to see that you're coming here with good intention.
Gal's visa was approved on the same day as the interview. Within 2 weeks, a student visa sticker was added to her passport, and she was free to fly to the U.S. Studying abroad doesn't just benefit international students. Colleges benefit too. For one, international students don't often get scholarships unless they're tied to athletics, so that means more money. Plus, international students can help a college create a more diverse campus. And for colleges struggling with declining enrollment, international students can help with that too. The school Gal went to, Cardinal Stritch University, actually closed due to low enrollment soon after she graduated. Most colleges have an international office that works with foreign students. The colleges also work with U.S. Homeland Security, which issues paperwork, vets students, and monitors whether schools follow federal guidelines. So both the students and the colleges have to keep their paperwork up to date with the federal government. So in 2019, with her visa in hand and a spot on the basketball roster waiting, Gall went from the shores of the Mediterranean Sea to the shores of Lake Michigan to attend Cardinal Stritch in Milwaukee. She was 22. Right away, she and other international students had a crash course in what they could and couldn't do.
One of the first things that popped to me right away that we're not allowed to work off campus. Nothing, anything is illegal.
Students under an F1 visa also need to take at least 12 credits per semester to be considered full-time students. There's also this form called an I-20, which needs to be signed by the university every 6 to 12 months to stay valid and let you travel without complications. Gall says she also had to be careful to avoid any kind of outside trouble, like even getting a speeding ticket.
The beginning is very overwhelming. Signature? What signature? I can't work. How can I? How many hours?
While basketball was physically demanding and time-consuming, Gall says it also saved her in a way. The court was a safe space she could rely on, and sport is its own international language. Outside of basketball, the cultural differences were a bit more pronounced.
When I came here, I was very, we call it like ethnocentric, which means like the culture is only like there's one culture that fits all. Everyone behaves the same. And I truly thought like this. So I came here and I just assumed that my rituals, my expectations, my social behaviors, like whatever that is, would just fit what I grew up on. This was far from reality. I just had no idea.
Adjusting to a new culture took years, during which she went through different stages of culture shock. First, the honeymoon phase.
America, this is amazing. You know, like, oh my God, I love this place. This is so cool. And, you know, everything is so, you don't even think you're missing home because you're having so much fun.
Gall was also a Jewish student at a Catholic Franciscan university. She swapped the crucifix in her dorm for a mezuzah, a scroll rolled up and attached to the doorpost of Jewish homes. But she assumed she had to give up most of her cultural traditions in order to be accepted. This meant leaving the Friday Shabbat candles behind, not celebrating the holidays she did back home, and instead learning about Thanksgiving and Christmas and trying to celebrate those alongside her classmates.
And the more I did it, the more lonely I felt. I felt horrible. And I felt like I had no choice, but I did because I was scared. What are people going to say? What are people going to do? And again, it's not that I'm doing anything religious. It was more cultural for me and traditional.
It all took a toll on Gall's mental health. She remembers having a panic attack one night her freshman year.
I called my dad. I'm like, Dad, I can't do this. And he's like, Gal, it's 2 a.m. Like, can we talk about this tomorrow? And I'm like, no, that's it. I can't do this. And he told me, Gal, don't think 4 years. Just think about tomorrow. Like day by day, you don't have to do anything right now. Go to sleep. Tomorrow's a new day and we can talk about it tomorrow. And I felt like I was locked. I have to stay here. I have to do this. Like, you don't. Because I told him I'm going back home. And he's like, okay, when should I book your flight? And I was like, oh, I'm not stuck. And he's like, I'm booking it to you. When do you want tomorrow? And I'm like, no, I have a game tomorrow. And I have an exam in a week. I can't. And like suddenly the reality kicks in.
Gall says she knew she had the choice to go home if she wanted. But she decided to keep trying.
And it's worth it because this was my dream. Even when you dream, there can be nightmares. It's still a dream. It's part of it.
Eventually, Gall learned that she didn't need to hide who she was.
I wish just someone told me like, hey, you can be yourself here, you know? If you want to fast on your holiest day of the Judaism, you don't have to practice today, you can fast. Because the moment I did, my coaches were like, of course. Oh my God, yeah. But I didn't know. I just assumed that is wrong. Where in fact, Stritch was so welcoming to everyone.
One of the moments she felt most accepted was when the Catholic school held its first ever menorah lighting ceremony for Hanukkah when she was a junior. Gall played a role in making it happen.
They're like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Like, let's celebrate, Hanukkah, all of us. And the team was like so fun and supportive. They took pictures with me next to them and Nora. Like, I still have those pictures.
Gal says once she found her community, Stritch felt like home. She graduated in 2023 with degrees in corporate communication and social media and psychology. At 26, Gal wasn't just facing the end of undergrad, but her visa too.
So when I approached that stage, I was like, I want to stay here. How can I do that? The best thing you can do, F1, student visa, keep studying.
She got accepted into Marquette University for a master's degree in clinical mental health counseling. That meant she could apply to extend her F1 student visa.
I could breathe for 2 more years. I wanted to stay. I was not ready to go back because I felt like I have more stuff to do here. And I started to fall in love with Milwaukee too. I felt part of the community suddenly, and I said, hey, this is a place where I can imagine myself being.
At Cardinal Stritch, Gal had a built-in support system living on campus and being part of the basketball team. Her life as a grad student was lonelier. She even considered dropping out. Was staying in Milwaukee worth the $60,000 she was paying for this master's program?
So even navigating through the financial barriers, how am I going to pay tuition if my salary is so low? How can I do that? And even as international students, we're not allowed to work more than 20 hours a week.
No matter what country you come from to study in the U.S., one thing is universal. It is expensive to be an international student. All right, so let's go over the numbers. There's the cost of tuition, fees to keep your legal status up to date, spending thousands of dollars to fly back to your home country if you can afford it. There's cost of living, transportation, and so much more. Gal was able to make this work financially only because she had outside help from her family and community. While she did get a partial athletic scholarship at Cardinal Stritch, Marquette was all out of pocket.
People from my close circle, whether if it's like community or my family, helped me and supported me through this. But it is a barrier, I feel like, especially for international students.
Gal had the biggest scare of her international student journey during grad school. A clerical error almost sent her home. So remember the rule about international students not being allowed to work off campus? Well, there is actually one exception. An internship related to your field of study. If you get approved, the internship goes on an immigration form that international students need to keep up to date. During her second semester of grad school, Gal got an internship, but technically, she was working illegally.
Long story very short, something fell between the chairs. I didn't know I needed to sign that form. I feel like the communication between the international office in Marquette and me, something was just not effective enough. So what happened was that basically I did something that was problematic. And once my office found out, I got a very scary email that basically I'm getting deported unless I'm going to fix it now.
This error caused Gal to lose her visa. To get it back, she'd have to leave the country. So she spent the money to fly to Canada, renew the visa, pay the fee again, and return to the U.S.
And my scare was like at the immigration point in Canada, I might be flagged in the system because it's a new visa. That was my fear. And everything was fine. He looked at me and he said, welcome to the United States. And I entered. But I didn't know it's going to be okay.
The stress of this experience still sticks with Gal. She didn't want what happened to her to happen to any other international students.
I had a long talk with one of the people at Marquette in the international office, like, you guys are our families. You guys are our guides. If you don't guide us, we will fall in the systems, with the laws, with the regulations. We will fall. So we need you to be communicative and care about us enough to not let this happen.
After the near deportation scare, Gal had everything squared away. With her new visa, she completed the program in 2 years. So what now? In order to stay in the U.S., she would have to start a job in her field of study within 60 days of graduating. Students on F1 visas can get permission to stay in the U.S. for a short time to work in their field through something called Optional Practical Training, or OPT. That was Gal's plan. She started filling out job applications 5 months before graduation. More roadblocks.
I wanted to work in hospital settings, but here's another limitation. In the application process, they ask you, would you require a sponsorship down the road, which means basically a legal procedure for a non-U.S. citizen to work in the U.S. And once you click yes, it kicks you out of the application.
After lots of dead ends, Gal was offered a job as a mental health therapist at Hillary Counseling, a private boutique practice in Milwaukee's 3rd Ward.
And for me to sit in that chair, to give people the power and help them to do that in their own way, in a creative way, is a blessing. And I can't do that anymore? In a year? What am I going to do?
Remember, Gal's work permit is temporary, which brings us to today. Gal is only allowed to work here legally until June of 2026, and her options to stay after that are, again, limited.
Those routes were designed for certain things, and I feel like it wasn't designed for it. Do your education, come contribute to the country, play for our team, bring us championships, and get out. And I don't want to. I want to be here. I love the United States. I want to contribute to my Milwaukee community. I love Wisconsin.
She has a few potential options, none of them simple or easy. 1, marry a U.S. citizen. While Gal says she's lucky enough to have a partner who's a citizen, she doesn't want to put pressure on their relationship.
So that's not the route I'm thinking, and that's not the route I'm taking unless we need to, and not because let's get married to save, just because of love and because of hope in marriage.
Another route, applying for an H-1B visa. This is a sponsorship visa that the company you work for can apply for on your behalf, with a fee, of course. The Trump administration recently raised that fee to $100,000 for new applicants. Yes, you heard me right, $100,000. Before, it typically cost employers between $2,000 to $5,000. On top of that, H-1B is a lottery system. There's less than a 20% chance someone like Gal gets picked. Another pathway, apply for a business visa, which is a long, complicated process. Or she could go back to school for a doctorate and extend her student visa. But this might not be as straightforward as it used to be. The Trump administration has proposed changes that would limit the time international students can stay in the U.S. and make it harder for them to work here.
And unfortunately, because it's not the case for everyone, people fall and they have to go back home. So there's not always a path. And even if you do think that you take the right path, you might find yourself out the door.
In fact, international students have faced a lot of uncertainty during Trump's second term. Some have been detained by ICE for their campus activism. The government is now vetting social media accounts from visa applicants, and there's a travel ban on some countries. Israel is not included. Right now, Gal isn't sure which path she might take to stay in the U.S. In the last couple years, one of the most challenging things for Gal has been navigating the fallout from the war in Gaza as an Israeli in the U.S. If she has to go back to Israel, she's worried about her safety. There's no predicting what the situation might look like by the time her work permit ends next summer. Gal says her brother and his wife almost died during Iranian retaliatory strikes against Israel back in June, and she's lost a friend she sat next to throughout high school. She couldn't go back to Israel for his funeral. The war also changed how Gal navigates her life in the U.S. She says she never felt scared to say she's from Israel until recently, and some of her friendships have come to an end because of it.
I was never placed in such a hard situation like now. That the news and the things that my country is doing define who I am. I didn't choose to be born where I was. I didn't choose this war, and I didn't choose anything that's related to it. So if you want to keep hating and you want to keep blaming, you can do that, not to me. Because I'm not going to let you. Hate is never the answer. War is never the answer for me.
Even with this tension, Gal wants to stay here. She's built a life for herself in Milwaukee that she loves and is proud of. I first met Gal a couple years ago when I was covering the closure of Cardinal Stritch University. She's a strong, confident, and open person. Even as she's juggled all the stresses that come with being an international student and recent grad, she pretty much always has a positive attitude. After we spent a lot of time together talking about her journey, I had one last question. This interview is focusing on the international student pathway and where it's led you today. So for the past 6 years or so, you've identified as an international student. How do you identify yourself now?
I love that question. You know, it's just, I had all those definitions my whole life, and once I lost those, I felt lost. What am I going to say? I'm not a basketball player anymore. And again, this is a whole identity crisis, I feel like, especially for international students or athletes. But I realized that all those experiences shape who I am, and I don't have to have those tags to be valuable. So my name is Gal Dahan. I'm a therapist in Milwaukee. I love what I do. I'm 28. I'm from Israel, and I love this life, you know. So it sounds so funny, but like, it's simple.
Perfect thing to close out on.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That was reporter Audrey Nowakowski. Status Pending is produced by WUWM, Milwaukee's NPR, part of the NPR network. Our team includes
Audrey Nowakowski,
Excaret Nunez,
Emily Files,
Catherine Kokel,
Maria Peralta Arellano,
Valeria Navarro Villegas,
Samia Said,
and me, Jimmy Gutierrez. Music in this episode is by Blue Dot Sessions. Subscribe to the Status Pending podcast for more stories of people in Wisconsin navigating the U.S. immigration system.
Sources and methods, the crown jewels of the intelligence community. Shorthand for how do we know what's real? Who told us? If you have those answers, you're on the inside, and NPR wants to bring you there. From the Pentagon to the State Department to spy agencies, listen to understand what's really happening and what it means for you. Sources and Methods, the new national security podcast from NPR.